And number 2 on the list is, dun dun dun, my favorite probably of all time, and that is What's up guys, Enkiri here, and today we're going to go over my top 10 movements that I would use to speed run the development of my strength and athleticism. I haven't gotten a chance to really watch any of the other videos that were on this topic, but I'm guessing that my list is probably going to be a little bit different from most of the lists that you guys have seen so far. I know just from a cursory glance, I've seen a lot of hypertrophy only dudes, or hypertrophy biased dudes, we'll say, who've covered this topic, as well as some general strength and muscle dudes. So my list being based around the development kind of all around fitness and athleticism being thrown in there as well, while using general strength principles as a base, is probably going to be a little bit different from most of the other lists that you guys have seen so far. And I figured this would be a pretty cool topic to cover. So let's just jump right into it. Now, these movements are in no particular order. That is, I'm not claiming that any particular one is any more important than the other. I just, in random order, threw some things down onto a list, whatever popped in my head as like, if I could only do 10 things, this is what I would fucking do. So they were kind of in random order, and then I just grouped them into lower body, upper body, and total body. Now, the important part here isn't the order, it isn't the groupings, it is viewing them all collectively as a unit. 10 movements comprising a single path to badassery. Now, before we move into the meat and potatoes of today's video, I just want to thank my new partner, Nutrisense, for sponsoring today's video. And I want to show you guys a pretty darn cool little toy that I just received from them as well. So this is a continuous glucose monitor. Now what you do is you just attach it to the back of your arm, you leave it on there for 2 weeks at a time. And what it does is it measures your blood glucose levels continuously throughout the day in real time. Now, I've always had a vested interest in my own health, and blood sugar is a pretty important component of that. So this is a measure that personally I've always been very curious of. And I've had my blood drawn multiple times at the doctors over the years, and I've got my glucose levels measured that way. And that's handy and all. But with a device like this, you actually gain access to a wealth of new and valuable information, because now you can see precisely how different behaviors impact your blood glucose levels in real time. You can see how certain foods or activities or habits impact what's actually going on inside your body, essentially with a live feed, right? And with that pinpoint knowledge, you can now act or adjust accordingly, right? So basically, it allows you to more accurately emphasize the good things that you're doing, while hopefully helping you to eliminate some of the bad things or bad habits that you have, right? And with the idea there being to promote longevity as well as optimal health within that longevity, something that I certainly want for myself. Now, when you sign up for the Nutrisense program, you receive a prescription for a continuous glucose monitor, which gets conveniently shipped right to your door. You also gain access to the Nutrisense app, which is where all the data from your glucose monitor gets sent. So basically, you just use your phone to read the data that your monitor is gathering throughout the day. And there is all kinds of different data for you to peruse. Every day you get a morning average of your blood glucose, a minimum glucose level, a maximum glucose level, the daily average, the median, the standard deviation, and much, much more. And if you're not sure what to do with all of this data, you also get complimentary access to coaching with a dietitian who can walk you through exactly what all of this information means, as well as how to best approach things in order to reach your own health goals. So it's a pretty cool product and just a really awesome program that they're offering here, guys. And if you are interested in really just kind of taking control of your own health, then this might be exactly the type of thing that you are looking for. I know that personally, I was really, really excited when they reached out to me and offered to send me one of these bad boys. So definitely check out the link in the description down below. That's my tracking link. I got a discount code for you guys as well. Enkiri25 will get you $25 off of your CGM. So I hope you guys enjoy. And again, I want to thank Nutrisense for sponsoring today's video. Much appreciated, guys. And now back to your regularly scheduled program. So number 1 on the list is the front squat. You guys knew it was gonna be a squat. I mean, that's not surprising anybody. Now, I chose the front squat specifically because our goal here, right? Our goal is becoming as well-rounded as possible. And the front squat is going to ensure adequate mobility through the knees, hips, and ankles, as well as the thoracic spine, right? You're also going to get that extra dose of upper back stimulation from the front squats. Front squats are probably the best upper back exercise in existence. I've said that for years now, and this is going to carry over into a multitude of other endeavors and lifts. As well, the front squat is much harder to cheat as compared to a back squat, right? It's going to, whatever. And it's going to ensure that the tension stays on the thighs, on the quads, which is really what we want. And when we think of fitness and athleticism kind of deal, we want, from our squatting movements, we want to keep the tension on our thighs more so than on our hips or our back, right? And with a front squat, you can't really cheat the tension or the stress off of the legs like you potentially can with a back squat. So for a more generalized endeavor like this, like what we're going for here, I go with a front squat. And number 2 on the list is, dun dun dun, my favorite probably of all time, and that is sprinting. I gotta say, even if all you did was these first 2 exercises, front squats and sprints, that you would be probably way more of a badass in 10 years than 99% of people that you run into. So just keep that in mind. And what can I say, man? I was literally just running some sprints the other day. I picked back up into it, doing them 2 times a week again. And what I've started doing is wearing my Fitbit while I run, and it tracks the top MPH using GPS. It tracks the top MPH that I hit on my sprint. So that's actually kind of cool. It gives me a little bit of extra motivation to really crank it out hard, go max effort and all that, and try to hit the fastest sprint that I can hit. But sprints, they nail your hamstrings, they nail your glutes, they keep you supple, they keep you young, they keep you sharp and explosive and powerful. Everybody should be able to run a respectable sprint without the risk of falling flat on their face or ripping a hamstring up in the process, right? If you can't run, I've always said this, if you can't run fast, reliably, then you need to reevaluate your priorities, man. Number 3 on the list is hyperextensions. I've long been an advocate for heavy weighted hypers because they strengthen the lower back, they strengthen the hamstrings, they strengthen the glutes. Basically, they nail the entire posterior chain, and they do so while encouraging the development of length, strength and length simultaneously through the backside of the body and through the hamstrings. They'll make sure that you're never weak or stiff on the backside of your body, and they'll make sure that you are never atrophied on the backside of your body. An important feature because a pancake ass is simply not very attractive. And number 4 on the list is Nordic curls or glute ham raises. It's basically the same movement pattern, just that a Nordic curl is a little bit more difficult, but also the glute ham raise hits a little bit differently based on how the body gets situated in the machine. But these are also hamstring exercises. They work the knee flexion aspect of the hamstrings rather than the hip extension aspect. So they complement the hyperextensions that I just talked about in point number 3, right? Now, having strong knee flexion capacity, specifically during the negative phase as that knee is extending, has been demonstrated repeatedly to reduce the incidence of hamstring strains during running and sprinting and athletics and all that stuff. So this is an important component of your training if you're pursuing that concept of all-around fitness or if you're just an athlete. Stronger knee flexors will also increase your speed potential. As well, your knees can simply never be too strong. Number 5 on the list is horizontal jumps. Horizontal jumps can be done on 2 legs, they can be done on 1 leg, they can be done for speed, they can be done for distance, they can be done from a stationary position, they can be done with a running start, they can be done as a single instance jump, or they can be done sequentially and in rhythm for multiple jumps. Now these are going to work different power and elastic qualities depending on the variations that you choose, but they're all going to strengthen the thighs, they're going to strengthen the hips and the hamstrings and the glutes, they're going to strengthen the lower legs and the feet, and they're going to build power and beastly propulsive capacity. They're going to turn you into an explosive monster. And number 6 on the list, and this is the last lower body based movement, I promise, but it is sled work. None other than sled work. You guys know that I love my sled. I actually wrote an article on this concept a few years ago, but basically, in my opinion, sled work is the best way to tie the weight room work that we do, that weight room strength work and hypertrophy work, into real world strength, power, functionality, and movement capacity and athleticism. All that good stuff that becomes very important if you're a guy who actually wants to venture outside of the gym, right? So you can push the sled, you can pull the sled forwards or backwards, you can drag it laterally, you can sprint with it at a bunch of different velocities, or you can just load it up heavy and go balls to the freaking wall, man. So the sled can be used to build power, it can be used to build leg strength, it can be used to build muscle in the legs, and it can also be used to build badass conditioning as well. Basically, it can really be used for anything, and it's going to turn your gym strength into real world capacity. So now we're on to the upper body, and number 7 on the list is none other than the AD press. Now, personally, I am actually partial to unsupported overhead pressing variations, but I recognize that the AD press offers greater stability than most other overhead presses, and it also involves more muscle groups than most other overhead presses as well. Namely, it allows you to get a lot more engagement of that upper chest region. So here, we're going to get the benefits, most of the benefits of overhead pressing, which I personally think are greater than the benefits of most horizontal pressing movements. But we're also going to be able to use more weight on this exercise as well as compared to other overhead presses, which is hopefully going to create a more potent training stimulus. And we're also basically going to get the benefits of incline bench pressing here as well. So you sort of end up with a good mix of benefits from both pressing patterns, right? You end up with a mix of the benefits of horizontal presses as well as vertical presses combined into one with this movement. So that is why I chose this movement specifically. And number 8 on the list is the neutral grip chin-up. Now this pulling movement is going to balance out the pressing exercise that I just mentioned in slot number 7, the AD press, and it is going to strengthen the lats and the upper back, as well as the grip and the forearms and the biceps to some extent as well. And it's just going to help you to build that barn door back, right? The neutral grip is going to ensure that we can hit the exercise hard and heavy with less risk of ever developing any tendinopathy around the elbows, something that becomes a problem for certain people when they're using a supinated or a pronated grip. As well, this neutral grip also tends to be the strongest variation for most people. So it's going to let you use the most weight and hopefully get the greatest stimulus and the biggest bang for your buck on your pulling exercises here. Becoming a master of your own body weight is also a very important part of becoming a hybrid athlete. So mastering the chin up is a very big component with this concept. And finally, we're up to number 9 and 10 on the list, and I'm going to group these two together because they are both total body behemoths from the Olympic lifting family. They serve similar but different and even complementary purposes. And the two exercises are the high pull and the push press. Now, the high pull is going to be our raw power builder, right? The strength that we build in our legs and in our posterior chain from those front squats and those hyperextensions, we're going to convert that into raw power using the high pull. And then we're going to transfer that raw power into movement capacity and athleticism using the sled and using our sprints and using our horizontal jumps. I have talked extensively and written extensively about this movement, about the snatch grip high pull in particular, but very briefly, this exercise lends itself to performing large amounts of explosive volume. Now, it biases the extensor muscles in the hips, right? And the pull that you use to finish off the movement is going to build up your upper back and your yoke and is going to turn you into a freaking yoked powerhouse. And then this high pull is complemented with the push press, which biases terminal knee extension rather than hip extension, right? When you perform a push press, your torso needs to stay as vertical as possible. So there's not much hip flexion or hip extension taking place. Instead, the focus becomes the knees. So this is going to emphasize building power in the thighs. It also builds core strength, it builds shoulder stability, shoulder mobility, and overhead strength as well. And it also teaches you how to tie the upper and lower body together into an aggressive, coordinated, and violent movement using the entire body in a concerted and aggressive effort as a single and undeterred unit is an underrated skill that most people lack, and the push press is a good way to start mastering this skill. So there you go, guys. My top 10 movements that I would use to speed run my strength and my athleticism. And it was really hard to narrow this list down to just 10 movements. I kind of fudged it a little bit by using movement pattern categories that you could break up into several variations. But even with that, I forced myself, instead of just saying squat, to say front squat, instead of saying overhead press, to pick the AD press specifically. But even with that, there were a bunch of other exercises that I still wanted to include on this list. And I'm just going to say the top 3 that were in my honorable mentions were the dip, the heavy swing, which some people have called the Enkiri swing, as well as a progression to full standing ab wheel rollout. So whatever it takes to get you to bridge the gap to being able to do standing ab wheel rollouts, because that's a very important function, a very important component of tying the upper and lower body together, right? And I think for longevity purposes as well. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on these last 3 here, but I will say that all 3 of them were actually on the top 10 list at some point, and I had to eliminate them because I had to make some cuts, right? But these guys came really close to making the list. Anyway, it's all I got, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you found it informative and entertaining as well. And I hope that it helps you in your quest for achieving badass strength, muscle, athleticism, and overall fitness. My concept of a hybrid athlete, right? So please remember to like the video before you go. Leave me a friendly comment down below as well, and let me know what you think of my top 10 list. Let me know what movements you guys would add to your own list. And be sure to check out my website. It's EnkiriEliteFitness.com. There you can find my training programs that utilize these top 10 badass exercises. Anyway, keep training hard. I will catch you guys next time.